All right, good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to our second of many parent workshops. And I just hit the record button, so I know we try to do different times of day, morning, in the middle of the day, afternoon, just to kind of see what works best with our parents. But if you're watching this after the fact, thank you for joining us. And all the parents joining us live right now, happy to see you guys here. We each year want to do a safety and discipline overview, especially for our sixth grade parents, but it's a good reminder for seventh and eighth grade parents of some of the things that we do. You're going to hear words from your students like citations and nuisances and drills, and we want you to know what those things are. And so again, this is recorded, so if you do have to leave, if it goes over your lunch break, or if you just need to exit the meeting, just know it will be recorded and placed on Friday's newsletter. So we will get started. Just to give you an overview of what we are going to be covering, our safety plan. Mr. Owens will walk us through that with our drills and procedures. We'll be looking at our camera system so you can kind of get an idea of how we utilize those. We have a school-wide discipline plan that every teacher uses. We're going to look at our cell phone and device policy, our dress code, transportation, and then I'm going to wrap this up with bullying. I've got my three assistant principals with me, so if you're not familiar with them, just a reminder, Miss Daniel is our sixth grade assistant principal and is over bus transportation. Mr. Owens is our seventh grade assistant principal and oversees car riders, and then Miss Jennifer Phillips is our eighth grade assistant principal and also oversees our program for exceptional children. Now, they do a lot of other things, but all of the things wouldn't fit on the slides, so we just picked out some of the ones that apply most to this presentation. So I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Owens, and he's going to walk us through safety.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank y'all for joining us. So the biggest thing that I would like to drum in right now is that safety and discipline is more important than anything we can teach them. The biggest thing there is we want to make sure that everyone is safe, because at the end of the day, if your kids are not safe, they're not learning. If they don't feel comfortable or safe, they're not going to be comfortable learning all the material that we're trying to get them to learn at school. All right, so the biggest thing here, we have something called See Something, Say Something. All of our students know that they can report anything to any teacher or administrator discreetly. They usually do that by way of email. Sometimes we also allow them to come in our office to discuss various things that happen inside the school. I'll give you a prime example. I had a student earlier today email me and say, hey, there's something that happened in their class and they wanted me to do a little investigation. Minor, but they wanted me to look into that. Students can also submit a counselor referral through the DCSS app. That's for, say, for instance, they had a conversation with one of their peers and they felt uncomfortable with adjusting it themselves and they want assistance from a counselor. So as far as supervision, we want to be anywhere that students are. And when I say students, I mean multiple students. So that's with our transitions. We have adults in the hallways. Our adults are in the bathrooms, especially since we have maybe 20 to 30 kids trying to use the bathroom at once. Lunch and breakfast time. So as you guys drop your kids off in the building, or when the bus drivers drop them off here at school, we have someone in the breakfast, and we also have them scattered throughout the building to make sure that all students are supervised accordingly. Also, we have a very extensive safety plan. It is a living document, so I oversee it, but it is created by someone we call the safety team. So that includes teachers, administrators, our school resource officers, counselors, etc. And staff are trained yearly based on some of the items that are inside of that plan. And what I mean by updated, like if we see any holes or anything that needs to be changed based on laws or any issues that we see, we also change those things. Teachers have safety folders inside of their classrooms. These safety folders have code meanings. Say, for instance, we say code red, they know exactly what that code is. They have directions for each of those codes, and it also have evacuation routes. These are important if, say, for instance, the teacher had to move classrooms or if they had a substitute teacher. We also practice codes and drills. For example, they're monthly. We have fire monthly, and we vary the times so that students can know what to do no matter what their location is throughout the day. And then the severe weather drills, we'll usually have those in November and February, and those can be substituted for those fire drills. We also have silent evacuations. As a matter of fact, all of our evacuations are silent because we want our students to make sure they're listening to any announcements that we're presenting to them. And last but not least, it is mandatory for us to have lockdown drills, and those are our code red drills. That's if there are any intruders or anyone outside of our campus or anyone that is nearby. Yeah, and I don't want to get too detailed with what they consist of, because obviously we don't want everybody or the entire public to know what all of our drills consist of. We also have a closed campus. All of our exterior doors and interior doors are locked. So if you may have noticed, when you come to our campus, you cannot get in unless you're buzzed in, and all the other doors are locked from the outside, and teachers have access through some of our primary doors with access with key only or a badge. We tell our teachers and students there's absolutely no propping of the doors because obviously that keeps us unsafe. Throughout the day, our SRO, that school resource officer, and our admin team, we walk around school and we check those doors periodically throughout the day. So sometimes the teacher may leave or come in and their door may be unlocked by accident. So we go by and we check to make sure those doors are shut and locked at all times. The next biggest thing is student awareness, because if our students aren't aware, then it defeats the purpose. So our students know that they aren't allowed to open doors for anyone that should not be in that classroom. For example, I can go to a classroom and if I didn't have my key on me or I just have my hands full, I'll knock on the door and the kids will sit there sometimes and just look at me. So they do a good job there. Our badges, they serve a dual purpose. The first one is just for anybody to identify who's here on our campus. Badges have our names, our face, and the location of where we're supposed to be from. So for example, my name will be Michael Owens. I have a picture of me. So you can visibly see that my badge is who I really am. Additionally, it is an alert system, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Our badges must be visible, and what we tell our teachers, they have the right to question any individual that comes in our building that does not have a badge or they don't see their badge on them. All right, so the Centegix badges that we just referenced earlier, they are tied to a system inside of our school called Centegix. So if you press the badge, it will alert various people depending on how many times you press it. So say for instance, if there was a fight or a student being unruly, the teachers have access to push that Centegix badge a number of times, and it will alert all the administrators and it will alert our SRO. And also, if they press it another number of times, it will alert a lockdown and the entire building will lock down. And that alert will not be administrative team, it will be law enforcement. All right, we have staff on duty. Like as I mentioned earlier, they're there for dismissal and arrival. So when you guys drop your kids off, as I stated earlier, you'll see administrators or you'll see teachers out ensuring that all kids are safe at that time. All visitors, if you are to visit our campus, you must use our primary entrance, which is the front office. In order to get in, you'll press the doorbell, and the doorbell has a camera so we can actually see who's at the front door. They'll ask you, hey, your purpose for being here, and they'll let you in once that information is confirmed. As I mentioned earlier, there is a badge that teachers can be buzzed in. And say, for instance, if you are a parent that was trying to come on campus, we have a visitor management system, which is called Raptor. So if you wanted to get past those double doors that kind of blocks the front office from the main entrance, you would have to go through that Raptor system. And what that Raptor system is a quick background check of any individual that tries to enter our premises. And then once you clear all validation, you will receive a visitor's pass and you will be allowed to pass the front lobby area. Our staff are trained to question visitors. So they would say, hey, who are you? What is your rationale for being here? And as I mentioned earlier, you'll get a visitor's pass through the front office. All right. We also have cameras in our building, and we're really excited about those cameras because they're really, really good. They're internal and external cameras. So like all surfaces of our campus does have camera, except for maybe inside the classrooms. We'll talk about that slightly. And the bathrooms. Obviously, it's unlawful to have cameras inside of the bathroom, and the cameras inside of the classroom, they are not for safety purposes. They're more so for educational purposes. So they're in our stairways, and some of our cameras have audio as well. And fortunately, all of our buses have video and audio. So as far as who has access to these cameras, it is limited to the administrators and our school resource officer. I know sometimes parents, they say, hey, we like to see the cameras. We like to see the cameras. And what I put here is access is limited for parents. And what that means is we want to protect the identity of all students inside of our building. So if there was ever a time that a parent requested to see the cameras, we would go through a process to make sure that we only can identify their student based on whatever incident that may have occurred. And I'm going to pass it over to the next person that is speaking about discipline.
Good afternoon. I'm going to start with our discipline plan and walk you through what our school discipline plan looks like. Again, I'm Jennifer Phillips. I'm the 8th grade assistant principal. So we do our best to make sure that we are being proactive in all situations instead of reactive. However, proactive, we have high expectations. We have set those. They have been reviewed with the students. That started day one. We have proactive, active. We practice active supervision. So like Mr. Owen said, during class changes, all transitions, arrival, and dismissal, there are adults present in the hallway, the cafeteria, outside the building as well. And we do our best to be consistent. We review the plan with students regularly, as well as the teachers review those, the discipline plan. And then we follow that plan, and I will go through that as we move along through what the nuisances and citations are. So the first step is students earn nuisances. These are an example of some of the behaviors, but they may be unprepared, out of their seat without permission, talking without permission, being disrespectful to other students, unintentionally using curse words, inappropriate hallway behavior, or just violating the classroom procedures that the teacher has set forth and reviewed with them. The first nuisance that is documented, usually the teachers have a clipboard or notebook that they keep this information in, and they record the student's name, and there is a parent contact as well. Or I'm sorry, not yet. The second nuisance, they receive a check mark. Third nuisance, they receive a citation. At the issuance of a first citation, a parent contact is made, and we'll go over what the next steps are that. So citations are usually a little more disruptive behavior, some classroom outbursts, intentional cussing or inappropriate language, throwing small items in the classroom or hallway, horseplaying in the classroom or hallway, accumulation of nuisances, Any act that necessitates a student being sent out of the class, maybe to the buddy teacher or someone else on the team. Misuse of equipment or technology, such as having their cell phones or earbuds, are seen. Unauthorized or inappropriate use of their cell phones, any electronic devices or computers, and then a violation of dress code as well. So going back to what happens at a first citation. So first citation is a warning and a parent contact. The second citation, the student receives silent lunch. That rotates depending on, but it is with their grade level team that they eat silent lunch. And there is also a parent contact. So if a second citation is issued today, typically that contact's made today, and depending on when that citation was issued, they serve silent lunch tomorrow. When the third citation is received, they serve in-team isolation. So a person typically on their team, a teacher they would stay with for all academic areas, but they would go to connections for in-team isolation. And a parent contact is made when they receive that citation as well. Again, typically that consequence is the day after the citation is received. And then a fourth citation is contact and a discipline referral. Typically referrals without a parent contact log, contact in the contact log would be deleted. And then citations start over every 9 weeks. So the 9 weeks start over in October. So if your student has 3 citations at the end, they are given grace and they start back with 1 after October the 3rd. And so then they can start accumulating those nuisances then. Tardies. Students also receive nuisances for tardies. These are not the same type of nuisances as behaviors. So tardies are separate from other behaviors. So students receive a nuisance when they are tardy to class. Now, this new tardy does not include you bringing them to school late or them being on a late bus. That is separate. So let's say between first and second period, a student arrives, they have 3 to 4 minutes to change class. They have gone to the bathroom and they are 4 to 5 minutes late for class. That is a tardy to class. They have been here. They are late to class because they did not get to where they need to be on time. So again, these nuisances, these tardies are separate. They would, accumulation of 3 tardies would equal a citation. So they get a nuisance for each tardy. Once they receive the third citation, it is third tardy, it is a citation. And then every tardy after that will also be a citation. And again, those will start over at the beginning of the next 9 weeks. Students who arrive more than 10 minutes late will receive a discipline referral. So if class starts at 10:15 and they don't arrive till 10:30, they will receive an office referral for being tardy to class. And then dress code. So this is something, again, that was reviewed with students at the beginning of the year. We go over the handbook. Teachers go over the handbook. There are no hats, hoods, or head coverings allowed within the building. That includes bandanas or bonnets. The students are really good about, if they have them on when they get off the bus, at least removing them and carrying them in and then placing them in their backpacks. Shorts, skirts, and or dresses must be at least fingertip in length. Garments that may have holes in them, those holes should be below the fingertips. If the holes are above the fingertips, they do not need to show skin. So if they do, they typically need to have like leggings or bike shorts underneath it to cover up that skin. Pants must be worn properly at the waist. No revealing or offensive clothing. Examples of that include low-cut shirts, clothing that is extremely too tight, crop tops, so bellies should be covered, backs should be covered. I wanted to emphasize that as well. Some of our girls like to tie their t-shirts up in knots in the back, so all skin should be covered at the mid waist. And then clothing that contains offensive or inappropriate language or graphics. And then again, no bandana or bandana print is allowed with the dress code. And then cell phones have not been allowed for several years here at Mason Creek. We typically do not have an issue with cell phones. The kids are pretty great about, and again, if they have them when they come in off the bus, they quickly put them away. They take their headphones off. And then when they get to class, they put them in their locker. So typically not an issue. If they are brought to school, that is where they need to be for the duration of the school day. Students, we should not be seeing them have them in their hands. They shouldn't be hanging out of their pockets as they're walking down the hallway, as that is not allowed. This includes also smartwatches. This is no longer, or it has never been, a Douglas County board policy, but it's a new Georgia law for all students in grades K through 8 within Georgia. So that law does include the smartwatches as well. It is about distraction-free environments. And I'm going to turn it over to Miss Daniel, who's going to take over for bus safety.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mrs. Daniel, and I am the 6th grade assistant principal as well as over transportation. As it relates to bus safety, a lot of times, and most of the times, the students do a very good job on the bus. They are to follow the school rules that apply just like they're on the bus, the same things that we expect for them when they're in class or when they're in the building on campus. We expect the same things for them when they're riding on the bus, which means they must remain seated. They must have only one earbud in that helps with the distraction and that they can hear if there's an emergency or something that's going on. They must wait until the driver is parked to exit out of the bus or to get out of their seats. They must not get off at a stop that is not assigned to their route. And that is very important because students who get off of a bus at the route that is not their stops, they will receive discipline, especially if they are doing it intentionally. Students may receive school consequence for behaviors at the bus stop. So depending on what the infraction is, depending on what they're doing at the bus stop, they are and will and possibly can receive infraction, which means that they will possibly have a suspension off of the bus for a certain amount of days, depending on how serious the infraction is. As it relates to car riders, Mr. Owens is over car riders. He's outside usually every morning and in the afternoon. If you all have students who are car riders, you will see him there, as well as a lot of the teachers who are there and administrators as well. It's a drop-off pickup. It's important that you are not trying to have your student to cross over into the building across the parking lot. So you have to wait. The students are dropped off at a certain area and they go into the building. There's no crossing the street. You're not to park, meaning the parents should not park unless they're a staff member trying to drop the student off or coming into our building. No student should be dropped off over in a gym. That is the first building that you see when you get to our campus. That is our gym. And no students should be dropped off there in the morning or either picked up there in the afternoon. Students are to stay in the cars, and parents should not walk up to get their children, wait for instructions from Mr. Owen. And most of the children, again, they really are very well and they understand the expectations. No cell phones are to be out during that time. No roaming, walking back and forth. Stay on the back of the sidewalk. That's very important. We don't want any student to walk into the flow of traffic. Pay attention and get in and out quickly. It is very important for the parents that have car riders and picking their children up to make sure that they are following the teachers and administrators as they are directing them to go with the flow of the cars, because it quickly can back up. And we want to make sure that we get all of the students in safely as quickly as possible. The expectations for the parents, again, no distracted driving, no speeding. Drive all the way down. Again, you'll see teachers and administrators out there waving you as close to our last mailbox, as we call it, as you can, so that you guys can just keep moving with the flow. 2 lanes when students transition, and once students are in, you guys can go. Once your student is in the car, then you'll be receiving information to go ahead through the line. And now I'll turn it back over to Dr. Weaver.
Thank you. So I told APs that I wanted to do the bullying section because I think this is one of the questions that I get the most from parents. I hear the most confusion about what is bullying. So this definition is actually from the Douglas County Board policy, and I've highlighted two key areas of the policy. And we at Mason Creek, the administrators, we are tasked to following board policy. And so when a student or a parent says, my child is being bullied, or a student says, I feel like I'm being bullied, we have to make sure that it meets this criteria. So it talks about a pattern of behavior. So if something has happened one time, let's say a student calls another student a name, that does not fit the definition of what bullying says it is. And so the other part of it is it's severe, persistent, or pervasive. And it's affecting the student's educational environment substantially. And so, of course, it talks about it can happen through a computer, it can be verbal, written, physical, and we address all of those things. But I think it's important to know exactly what the definition of bullying is, how we operate in Douglas County. Just some additional information. There is a difference, like I said, and our counselors do a great session in classrooms that talks about the difference between bullying and someone being mean or rude to you. So they give a lot of scenarios and talk through them because, of course, we don't want, even if calling a student a name is not bullying, that's very mean, and we don't want our students to be mean to each other. So we preach kindness constantly, but we do want them to know there is a difference between being bullied and being mean or rude. And so some scenarios we hear a lot about as administrators is, let's say a student gets in a fight and they say, well, that student's been bullying me. And unfortunately, they haven't told a teacher, a counselor, their parents, an administrator. They've never told anybody that. So you as a parent, if you think about that, that is very challenging for us to say, okay, that's been happening and that's the result. The fight is the result of a bullying scenario. The other part is sometimes, especially with middle schoolers, it's mutual. So let's say a parent calls and says, somebody's bothering my child. Can you look into it? And when we do, we see text messages, emails, conversations back and forth. And it's really a mutual conversation with the students. And so we always investigate all bullying, but it is very challenging to investigate. And the reason is some of it is he said, she said. There's really no evidence either way. So I want you to think about your own child. If you called the school and said somebody is bothering my child, we investigate it immediately. And we do it in a way that nobody knows that it was you as the parent or your child. We don't say who told us. We just say, we keep hearing that, this is going on, or we overheard students talking about it. We do it in kind of a vague way to keep the reporter confidential, whether it's a parent or a student. And then we always keep the parents informed. So anything that happens, we're going to call you back. We're going to email you back. We're going to meet with you in person to discuss what we found out. But one thing that is challenging, I think, as a parent is we want to know, what did you do to the other student? And we can't tell you that because that is confidential. I know that you wouldn't want your own child's information shared. And so, again, it's very challenging. And again, if you put yourself, I have a fifth grader, and if I think, let's say another parent called the school and said that Presley, that's her name, Presley's been bothering or bullying another student, and they just took that at face value and didn't investigate it. And so we want to ensure you that we do investigate all bullying. What we hope that our students feel comfortable with is sharing that. They can do counselor referrals, which we talked about previously. All of our administrators were in the cafeteria every day, so they know who we are. We're in their classes every day. So we hope that they feel comfortable with us. But if they do not, they can always report it to their teacher or to you guys as the parents. And so we just hope that we know as soon as possible before it does escalate. But again, I wanted to talk a little bit about that because I get probably the most questions about bullying than any other discipline incident. So I am going to stop sharing so I can see more people. And at this time, I know you guys might have specific questions about the discipline policy, the safety plan, whatever it may be. This is your time. You can either put it in the chat, you can unmute and ask a question. You can always shoot us an email later if you don't want to ask right now. But the four of us, are available to answer whatever it may be. And again, it's okay if you don't want to ask. If you want to call us later, it's totally fine. But we want you guys to feel confident that you know what we're doing at school. Ms. Holloway.
I don't have a question, but I just want to thank you for implementing this and making sure that all the kids are safe. With everything that's going on right now, they need to be covered. And I'm praying that the parents are covering their children before they leave home so
Yes,
that we all can be on the same page. Um, I make sure mine are covered. And I also tell her, if somebody do something to you, make sure you tell an adult first, because if it get to the point where you have to retaliate and there's no record, then you're going down just like they're going down. And that can be avoided.
yes,
So we just have to make sure that we talk to them and make them understand the rules and regulations. Right now, I'm working on the dress code. Big this three finger, we don't want to comply sometimes, and I'm not always at home because I'm subbing at Beulah, and so I'm already at work and my husband drops her off with the carpool, so I'm not always where I can see what she's wearing, even though when she get her clothes out at night, it's appropriate, if you follow me.
thank you.
But by the time she get to school, it might be something totally different.
Yeah.
And I have an issue with that with her, so I'm working on that,
Mhm.
to make sure that she's in compliance and she won't get any infractions on her records. So thank you again.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Mhm.
It is a heavy burden that we carry as administrators, because it is our number one responsibility is to keep your students safe. And so that's why we want you guys to know that it is always on our mind. And some of the things that we do, like Mr. Owen said, we don't share everything because, of course, this is going to go on YouTube and available for anybody to watch. And so we don't share all of it, but we want you to know that we think constantly about it and how we can always improve. So thank you. Anybody else have any questions? All right. You can just unmute.
Again, thank you all again for having this meeting. I did have a question, or maybe another option, as I know the dress code thing always seems to come up at every school level. Has the board even considered uniforms?
I highly doubt it. And actually, I said we follow board policy, and we do, but the board policy actually for short says 3 inches from the knee. And so instead of whipping out an index card or a ruler, we feel like it's more important that the kids can self-monitor. So we actually have it a little more lax than what it's supposed to be. But I can definitely bring and ask that question, but I don't think there's ever been a conversation about it. I know they're opening an elementary school that's supposed to have uniforms, but it's like a magnet themed elementary school. So I don't know if that is like a pilot of it, and maybe they'll try it after that, but I'm not aware of it.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Any questions? Well, again, you guys can always go back and watch this later. I know we went really quick through it, but I know you guys, a lot of you are at work on your lunch break or listening from a car, however you are. But we appreciate you joining us. And then I will place this on Friday's newsletter, and we'll hang around until everybody's gone. But that was all of our information. Thank you so much.